Road to Worlds Week 4 weekly recap. As you guys know, last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember, I narrowed it down to three CC decks: Puffin, Jarl, and Cindra. And I also narrowed it down to three LL decks: Starvo, New, and Zen. I've been doing some testing, we've been playing some games, and honestly, I have a couple of front runners in each format. Let's jump in, let's look at the data, and let's talk about where I'm at. Here it is, our infamous spreadsheet, what we've been using to track all of our data. Let's start at the top. Let's start with Puffin. Now, with Puffin this week, we were able to play 14 games, and I had a 42.8% win rate. That is basically a 7% drop from my 50% win rate last week. I now have a total win rate of 44.4% with Puffin across all of the 18 games that I've played. We have a 66% win ratio into Dash IO. I'm now 2-1 into the deck. It kind of feels like if the deck stumbles, we're able to get some real value and get a step ahead. Going first is really big in this matchup because you're basically forcing your opponent to have a setup turn, the turn after you already put a cog into play, or after you just really start to get your feet on the ground and get running. I played against a hardcore fatigue Olympia that was on Fiddler's Greens, Respite, Sinks, Fates, Shelters, the whole thing. I did lose that game. Now, I put Olympia on there because it's just like from last week. I talked about Huntsman being one of my worst matchups. And honestly, it kind of just falls into that same category of hardcore super fatigue is very, very hard for mechanologists to overcome. Now, it's worth noting that I did get my opponent down to 4 or 5 life, and then I ran out of gas. There wasn't much we could do. Trying to keep cog in the machines is a very powerful thing that we can do, but unfortunately, just not able to cross the finish line there. So Puffin continues to be a deck that impresses me, and I still feel like I have a lot to learn. Next up on our list is going to be Cindra. Now, we are noticing, the one thing I'm noticing here is that week 2, we went, we had 90% win rate across 10 games. In week 3, we had a 59% win rate, which is not bad, across 22 games. And then with Cindra in week 4, we had a 37.5 win percentage across 8 games. I think I went 3-8 or something like that. It was not very good. We dropped 21.5% on our win rate this time around. Since we're aiming to have a win rate of 70%, this is honestly not a great place to be. My overall win percentage is looking at 60% right now on Cindra. I'm 66% into Acilio this week. Acilio feels like a favored matchup. You're just able to apply a lot of pressure. You're able to put some things together. The one game that I did lose against Acilio, it's worth noting that my only card that had a way to generate go again was a cut through, and my opponent had a calming breeze to stop that off of the flick knives play. So it felt very, very bad that we weren't able to put a lot of things together or really generate any go again with that turn. They were able to combo me 2 turns later. So Cindra feels really good into Acilio. I've played 3 games into Mario, and I only won 1 of them. Now, the one game that I won kind of felt like a little bit of a high roll. We had a very early Wrath turn, and we ended the game with an Art of the Dragon Fire, direct damage they couldn't prevent to end the game. Mario feels really, really bad. Unless you're just rolling hot, it feels like no matter what you do, they're able to constantly punish you as Cindra. The new ambush card, Overcrowded, does help against Leave No Witnesses, being able to get it back and block with it. So it means that not arsenaling is actually a pretty good play against all of the assassins now, once you get an Overcrowded into the bin, into your graveyard. So our Cindra win percentage keeps dropping, but I still have faith in Cindra. Week 4 was actually our first week of playing games with Jarl. Now, for anybody who does not know, I'm on hardcore fatigue Jarl. I played 18 games of fatigue Jarl this week, and we won 10 of them, so putting us at 55%. By far the deck that I had the most success with this week in CC. I did go 2-1 into Gravy Bones. Now, I think this is worth mentioning because Gravy Bones is one of those matchups that it's very hard to fatigue them. But in my 3 games, I killed Compass on turn 2, 1 game, which is very high rolly, turn 0, crumble, turn 2, frozen to death to get Compass and basically win the game from there. And then 1 game I got Compass on turn 8 and still fatigued them. My opponent did bring in defense reactions, but still put me in a good spot. The 1 game I lost, I never killed Compass. and like we played a 19 or 20 turn game where if I had had 5 extra life, I probably would have won the game. Now, me and my opponent both made some mistakes, so it's worth noting that like that game may play out differently. But if there had been a turn in the first like 7 to 8 turns, maybe even 10 turns where I could get compass, I'd probably win that game, just depending on what it looks like. I also played 2 games into Prism this week, and I was 0% into that. I played against an Iris Prism, and that was a blowout. Like, there was nothing really I could do. We were just getting absolutely obliterated. And then against against the other Prism, like I just felt like I was behind all game. I couldn't really like clear multiple auras. I was trying to get Mercifuls off the board. I was trying to get Genesis off the board, but like Arc Lights kept getting in the way. Having 3 copies of Minus Touch in the deck does help a lot against Prism. It was a powerhouse of a card to get allies off the board, but still, it just kind of felt like we were just falling short and we weren't really able to like pull things together. So Prism is a matchup that we're going to look try and improve over the next couple of weeks. As we move down and we talk about LL just a little bit here, the first deck up is Starvo. I'm gonna jump over it pretty fast. I Starvo was the only like LL deck that I played last week. I won like 5 of my 8 games. I played 0 games of LL Starvo this week. I've been trying to practice new and Zen this week, but I didn't get any Starvo games. So just kind of skipping over that one for this week, and we'll come back to it if we need to. Starvo is a deck that I feel very comfortable on, like, having played Guardian and the way that it plays. So I can, try to pick that up pretty quickly in the last couple of weeks if I need to for LL. Moving on, we played 4 games of new this week. I played those on stream and I went 2-2. Now, going 2-2 is fine across 4 games, but the one thing that I noticed is that we won our Lexi game and we lost our Prism game. New seems to have a really, really hard time dealing with board state decks like Gravy or Prism or Dromai. They all seem to be like uphill battles and like they're not a very good matchup for us. So I think that's something to look out for as we play new. If we're expecting a lot of Prism or if we're expecting a lot of Dromai at Worlds, or even Gravy, then we need to be careful and like really take a look at like what new looks like in the meta. But the other side of that coin is that when we're playing new, we have a very, very good deck to be able to punish these aggro decks and keep them on the back foot. So by forcing our opponents to block and keeping them on the back foot, it's been very, very impactful. Like I've just kind of felt like aggro matchups good, board state matchups bad. We also lost to an Icelander, but that was a game that I probably could have won if I'd been on AB3 and tried to play to fatigue a little bit more. Just something that like I kind of learned throughout the matchup. New is one of those decks I'm going to look to continue to play as we work through more LL games. And then we played 10 games of Zen this week. And I went 3-7 on the deck out of our 10 total games. I won 2 of the 4 games I played against Prism. I played against 1 OG Prism and 3 new Prisms. We have I think there's 8 poppers in the deck. So having poppers in the deck lines up really well at like trying to force Prism's hand into making things kind of weird for them. And we have this way to like pop, slow them down, and then try to continue to like build up pressure and lean towards that Art of War turn. The one thing I will tell you playing Zen into Prism is you have to watch out for the Arclight Sentinel. It can be an absolute blowout in Art of War turn. So it's better to lead on an attack and then play the Art of War afterwards. And then Dash IO, I went 0-2 into Dash IO this week playing Zen. The null time zone that stops you from playing or pitching cards from hand is absolutely insane. One game I had an opponent play it off the top of the deck and named Chi when I went to transcend like the inner Chi, so I could no longer pitch it. It was crazy good. I had to sit it in my arsenal and let it sit there, or it was like give myself an intellect penalty for 2 turns, however I wanted to play it. And then the other game was going pretty well against Dio, but they drew null time zone in hand and then played it the turn I was going to I was searching up my chi. I was using all of my equipment. So instead of using that with Art of War and offense, I was forced into pitching the chi to my chess piece to make a Zen state token, which is not bad, but I was in a pretty bad spot and I really needed to catch up because my opponent was on a very interesting Art of War Dash IO deck. It was really, really interesting. So I don't know. Zen seems to kind of struggle into that null time zone card specifically, especially if they find it off the top of the deck. It can be really, really interesting. Right now, my 2 decks for LL that I'm leaning into the most are definitely New and Zen. These 2 decks are the front runners for me. Like I said, Starvo, we is a fallback that I can pick up in the last 2 to 3 weeks and kind of just play if I need to. But new, I really like how you're able to disrupt aggro decks, and I like that Zen has a very, very impactful game plan into a lot of different heroes. Like you have a lot of blues for ice, you have poppers for prism and Dromai. You're able to like play a really, really good aggro game plan. You have a toolboxy deck, so you're able to put together some really powerful turns without the art of war or anything crazy. So those are the two decks that I'm really like going to be testing more of over the next week. Because by the end of next week, no later than by the end of week 6, we're going to have our decks picked out. But hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have our decks picked out and we'll be looking to like really iron out and play the list we're looking for Worlds for like 3 weeks and get enough reps in. And wrapping up talking about CC here, the two decks that I'm leaning towards in CC are Cindra and Fatigue Jarl. Now, I will tell you that Fatigue Jarl is honestly like my number one pick. Like Fatigue Jarl is what I'm looking at. I'm probably going to play Fatigue Jarl at my ProQuest this weekend. I have one ProQuest in Hendersonville, North Carolina this weekend that I'm playing at. And I'm probably going to play Fatigue Jarl, just being entirely honest with you guys. Cindra feels more like a fallback choice. As much as I like Puffin, I don't know that she has the legs to get it done at a tier 4 event, where there's probably going to be like some number of huntsmans and victors and other random things that can fatigue you pretty easily. So Cindra and Jarl look to be the two leading decks, but right now it is Fatigue Jarl and CC and probably New and LL if I was like forced to like pick something. Those would probably be the two decks that I would lean towards playing the most at the given moment. There are a few cards from each hero that I want to talk about that I feel like have really stood out or like made an impact either in a good or a bad way. First up, we're going to talk about Cindra. When this started, I was playing 3 Oath of Loyalty in the main deck because I just wanted to be on as like in as aggressive as plan as possible. I wanted to be having as many 0 for 4s as I could. Oath of Loyalty is very clunky. There are a lot of non-draconic attack actions in the deck, and it just lines up very awkwardly sometimes. So I've went down to 2 because I think that's going to be more consistent and I think that's going to work out better. The other card that I like in Cinder is Parched Terrain. Now, admittedly, when somebody suggested this to me at first, I was kind of like, meh, are we sure? But it's actually been pretty good into Verdance. One of my buddies at a ProQuest the other day said that they played it in response to a heartbeat of Candlehold and was just like, so I think preventing the life gain, preventing the ability to be able to like, ping you over the course of the game is very, very impactful. So Parched Terrain has been added as a 2 of in my sideboard. So I think that cutting an Oath of Loyalty and adding 2 Parched Terrains to the sideboard has been very, very impactful and helped a lot. When we talk about Jarl, Amulet of Echoes is absolutely amazing. It takes the Acilio matchup from unfavored to being actually not that bad. Forcing your opponent to discard 2 cards the first time that they play Gone in a Flash for a second time during their quote unquote combo turn is really, really backbreaking. Amulet of Echoes lines up well, and so I'm on 3 right now in the sideboard, but I have been debating playing 1 Amulet of Echoes and playing 2 Staunch Response to try and help with something else, but Amulet is an all-star in the Acilio matchup. The other card in Jarl that I want to talk about is Poison the Well. Poison the Well is great against Verdance. You're using this to stop healing pot combo nonsense at the end of the game. So when they activate 1 potion, you let it happen. If they activate the second potion, like it depends on how many they have in play. But if they have all 4 potions in play, you snipe the third and the fourth one. If they have 3 in play, you snipe the second and the third one. You're basically just using Poison the Well to snipe the last 2. And so Poison the Well lines up very well and really helps you on that big combo turn when you're like trying to like not die to like, a billion arcane damage from Verdance. In Puffin, Tighten the Screws has been absolutely insane. I was not a huge fan of this card at first when it was suggested to me, but Tighten the Screws helps us push damage. It doesn't boost, so there's no cards out of our deck. It can help with untapping cogs. It helps us push on-hit effects. Tighten the Screws has been very, very impactful. I'm on 2 in the sideboard, and we might look at adding a third, to be honest. Moving on to LL. In Zen, Blue Plunder Run is an all-star. It helps you transcend. It helps you like just push damage. Like if you play it from Arsenal, it's just great all the way around. Being able to draw an extra card has a lot of impact. It goes all the way around. It does all the things you want it to in Zen, and it can help you just like fuel your entire game plan. Blue Plunder Run has been great at 3. I absolutely love it. Inside of new, we're going to talk about Siren's Call. There are a lot of decks in the format right now that are aggro decks that still play blues and they're still trying to get aggressive. So there are some matchups where you can just play Siren's Call trying to rip blues out of aggro deck's hand. It's also a 3 block. Against Starvo, it's insane. If they only have like 1 or 2 blues in hand, if they block wrong, you can rip the last one out of their hand. You can also force them into really awkward spots with the card. So Siren's Call has been putting in work. Absolutely love this card. And then the card in Starvo I want to talk about is Red Boulder Drop. Red Boulder Drop is amazing. It's a great arsenal target because it's a good 2-card 7. If you fuse, you can come in for 9, dominate, go again. If the crush happens, they put a card back on top of their deck. Against other aggro decks, Boulder Drop is absolutely insane anytime you fuse, and it allows you to keep one of your fuse cards to arsenal, which could be like a pulse that you want to arsenal, or maybe you want to IP a pulse to try and set up for next turn. Not that I'm advising that, but it can be good situationally. So Red Boulder Drop has felt really, really impactful in Starvo. Guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think about my changes, what you think about these percentages, and maybe if you think of something that I could do to improve, let me know. This has definitely been a team project all the way around, like the Road to World series. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear about it. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.